Welcome to the Excelerate America Collective Weekly Campfire. I'm Leslie Youngblood, and today I'm joined by an amazing entrepreneur. I truly hope you enjoy hearing their experiences and life path. Listen in. We're at the Weekly Campfire, and what this is a live interactive podcast where we interview a collective member and learn about their entrepreneurial journey. And along the way, everyone in the audience, you get to vote on the questions that you want me to ask our guest, who is Crystal today, next, and that is in the Campfire chat. So keep your eyes on that Campfire chat. We'll be dropping the first poll for you to vote on. You'll also be able to click on some links and learn more about Crystal Fairley and Uncle Keith's Gourmet Foods, and we are going to get started right now. So, Crystal Fairley, welcome. You are the president and CEO of Uncle Keith's Gourmet Foods, a specialty hot sauce business in San Diego, California. You and your husband Keith launched the business in 2015 when a local hot sauce seller was retiring, tasted Keith's chili pepper plants, and offered a buyout plan. You jumped at the opportunity to bring Keith's spicy mix to the market. Uncle Keith's now has 3 locations in San Diego and sells through Amazon online. Their stores also highlight specialty food products from other local small businesses, and you mentor new business owners and also donate proceeds to support local nonprofits that serve the community. Everyone, please welcome Crystal Fairley of Uncle Keith's Gourmet Foods to the Campfire. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited, Crystal. Specifically, as I sort of touched on in the intro, is that you guys, while Keith was making and growing these chili pepper plants, you didn't really have a specific plan to become quote unquote small business owners, but you had somebody come to you and offer you a buyout plan. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be?
Sure. Well, we have a friend that knew that person, and we gave them a sample of our product to future put it in their store. And at that time, that person had a kiosk at a location, and they let our friend know that they were going to be retiring, and did we want to take over that location? So we became instant owners. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. So how long did you and Keith discuss the opportunity, and how long did it take you to make a decision? Because that's not something I think, it's not like, oh, let's I don't know, even buy a car, I feel like is an easier decision to make than let's do a new business together. Tell me how that was for you guys.
Right. And I think maybe it was just the timing, and when the time is right. At the time, I'd actually was starting my own LLC for a meeting and event planning, because our daughter had just graduated, and I was doing contract work on the side, but I was actually going to take my own personal business to the next level. It was just kind of the right.
Tell me more about that. How long had you been doing the meeting? How long had you been doing that for?
So I was doing contract work since about 2007.
Gotcha. And then this was 2015 when you were offered the buyout for Uncle Keith's?
Yes. And it's just a small kiosk. And yes, we when he was going to close his store, because where he's located in Pangea Outpost, he actually had the exclusive rights in that location to sell hot sauce products, the products that we're currently selling.
Oh, gotcha. So it really was like a perfect storm or perfect opportunity that came together.
Yes.
I love that. Did either of you need convincing of the other one to agree to do it? Or were you both like, no, we should definitely do this?
No, I think we saw it as an open door, and then we realized, okay, this is what we should do.
I love that. I feel like that's so incredible, because I know a lot of people that probably wouldn't have thought that probably would have been like, oh no, that's too risky, or oh, I'm not ready. And so I think one of the most difficult things about entrepreneurship is, well, everything can be difficult and scary and risky. But I think to even just take that leap. And so I just think that's so wonderful that you both were on board and ready and willing to do that.
Sure.
I love it. All right, so I have the first question from the collective here for you, Crystal. They would like to know, can you please explain the best thing from your worst job?
Well, I worked at a bank, and when one day I helped someone, and somehow I got distracted and I cashed their check and gave it back to them. So I was no longer employed at that bank.
Oh my goodness.
So
Oops.
I think that, and your younger days, and you carry that with you. Like, wow, I was fired.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it does help you to, try and focus and pay attention.
Sure. Right. Especially now as, running Uncle Keith's. And I know that, you're instrumental in handling so many of the intricacies of the business. Tell me how that learning experience for you and even what you were doing with the bookkeeping experience before, like how all those skills and what you learned there has helped you, with Uncle Keith's today.
So I think with Uncle Keith's, where we are, it's learning to see the big picture and what's required of us, and then plugging in people or doing it myself to get the task done.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things also too, in in the article that we have about you on the website is how your entrepreneur superpower is that you're a people person and you like working on site at meetings and events and to do things, right? And so does your experience in previous life, pre-Uncle Keith, also sort of parlay into that as well?
Yes. So one of the things that we've been doing, especially this year, is we've been participating in more farmers market, pop-up events, because I really believe that you can reach your target market through events. And that's one of the things that I got from meeting and events industry, is because when you pull people together, it's a great time to interact and learn. We get a lot of good feedback when we're doing consumer events because people are sampling the products.
Right.
And when someone samples a product and then turns around and buys the product, that really gives you validation that, okay, people really like this. It's one thing when your friends taste your product and say, oh, it's good. It's one thing, but it's another thing when you have a complete stranger taste your product and then turn around and purchase your product.
Right. Definitely. Yes, because especially that must be something, especially for events, like you said, like when they could come and taste it, how do you market? And I know I see Q in the audience, and, even if you don't have a food product, but right, like how do you market your product when people can't touch it, hold it, feel it, taste it? And so I think of course events, but has it been difficult for you to find events, or are there certain events like the farmers market that definitely work for you and maybe not so much the trade shows, or what have you learned about that?
Right. And sometimes it could be hit and miss on events. Sometimes we've been doing a few events regularly, like once a month at that same event. And sometimes it's better than others. And then sometimes I just say, we just have to keep plugging away, because you never know. It could be a good day. It could be a bad day. But I think every time we do an event, I consider it as a seed sown. So when we do an event, even if we don't make the monetary goal that I'm thinking we should make, I know we're actually still doing good because we're giving out samples and maybe somebody will make a purchase in the future. So we're still making an impact, even if we don't have immediate sales.
Right. Yes. I think that makes so much sense. And I was actually, I'm working on the marketing and branding workshop we're putting together for next week. And I was doing some research, and there was an article that said a customer needs to see your brand 4 to 5 times before they make a decision, right? And so sometimes you do have the ones that are taste the product or experience the product or see your brand and are immediately like, yes, I'm into it. But for most customers, it does take multiple times. And so I think that's so interesting that that is something that you are seeing in real time play out right before you.
Correct.
Yeah. Tell me about, have you gotten to know a lot of the other vendors at like the farmers market and other trade shows?
Oh, definitely. And it's really neat because I like to hear their story as well and
Sure.
how they're doing. And then we can learn from one another too. And a lot of times when you're at an event, it may be an opening to another event because a vendor will say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to this or I'm doing this. Are you going or have you heard of this?" And it's,
Right.
"Oh, I wouldn't mind doing that event." And it's a
Right.
future event. So those are always good.
Yes, definitely. I love that. The power of that's like the oldest form of advertising and marketing, right, is the word of mouth. And
So
the people
true.
that you know, right?
So true.
All right, we have our next question from the collective that they have voted on. And Crystal, they would like to know, when did you know it was time to go 100% in on your business?
Well, when we actually first started our business, we started as a sole proprietor. So I
Mm-hmm.
had the Fairly Well Events LLC, and then we
Mm-hmm.
had this business. And I says, I cannot do two startups. It's just crazy. So I
Right.
closed my own personal LLC and decided to just focus on Uncle Keith's. And one thing is, so I'm in the business 100, we're both in 100%, but he has a full-time job. So
Mm-hmm.
this was going to be my business
Ah,
as far as uh, working to take it to the next level. So once I
right.
closed that meeting and event planning goal, I started focusing on Uncle Keith's. And at the beginning, we weren't doing meeting and events in Uncle Keith's. We were just doing the hot sauce store. So it's
Mm.
nice that as we've grown or time has passed, I'm able to implement the things that I dropped with what I'm doing now.
Right, right. Yeah, tell me more about that. Like what in particular comes to mind that you've been able to bring back and do?
Well, I love doing events, and that's one of the
Mm.
things that I was going to be doing as a be an event company. I was going to start hosting events. So the first thing I
Mhm.
did actually with Uncle Keith is I hosted my own networking event, and then we also did a Visionaries of San Diego event
Oh,
because I
wow.
I totally believe in giving as we grow, not
Mhm.
arriving and giving back, but literally
Mm.
giving along
Mm.
the way. So it was pretty exciting to try and implement the meeting and events aspect in creating a event. So
Mhm. Yeah, and Roy even just touched on two things that I think one, giving as you grow instead of giving back. Oh my gosh. 1,000,000%. That's amazing. I've never heard that before. And that's just incredible. And I know every person, human business owner should think about that too and practice that, I think, right? Because we think like, oh, well, as soon as we make X revenue, we'll be able to give back, or we'll do a promotion that donates proceeds in 6 months after we've established. But giving as you grow, like you can do that along the way. Tell us more about how I know Uncle Keith, you guys work with new owners and you work with your local community. Tell us more how you guys have been giving as you grow.
well, we always try and find ways to put things so we're giving to the community. Just for our own profits, we do have a percent that we actually are giving to our local
Mm.
church, and then one to nonprofits and other entities. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we do, and this is kind of a giving back because every time a code red is sold, we'll give $1 to our Chula Vista Fire Department. So that's
Oh,
kind of, it is a
wonderful.
giving back because that way. But when I say giving as we're growing, in other words, we really look for opportunities to be involved whether it's in the Chamber of Commerce or local Live Well San Diego, just to be in their meetings and find out what's going on in our community.
Right. Yes. And that's incredible, because that must be, an additional lift to on top of all the other operational things that you're doing, to make sure, it takes effort to be involved and have your eyes open and to be involved in the community. How do you manage to do that too?
A lot of times I live by the week or by the day and really look at my calendar and see, okay, what can I do? What can I plug in?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, we all love to do it all, right? But we know that we can't. How do you maybe prioritize the things on your calendar for that day, Crystal?
And usually, I feel as if things are in kind of patterns. So, like right now, I was in a boot camp, and it was like 6 Mondays. So then I pretty much know, okay, 6 Mondays, these are taken up. And then I was accepted into the Bunker Labs Veterans in Residence program. And I know that's going to be every Wednesday for 6 months till the end of the year. So a lot of the things that I'm doing right now pretty much have like a system. Junior Achievement has a mentor program that I'm participating as a mentor, and that's going to start up, and it's going to be every Friday for maybe 6 weeks. So it's kind of just,
Gotcha.
Okay, so it just kind of seems like the things that I'm participating in kind of have a cycle, and it kind of like, okay, I can plug it in the calendar and I know, okay, this is earmarked for this time, this date, kind of thing.
Right. I think that's that makes a lot of sense, where you live and die by the calendar. And I know that, I believe we have Joe Shakatano, in the audience. And one of the things when we had interviewed him, and even in his reads on the accelerateamerica.com, he says, I live and die by my calendar. And I think for any small business owner, and you're saying that too, right? Like, you need that calendar. And I attended a Robert Courtney branding event a few months ago, and there was somebody on the panel, and they said, get yourself a calendar, get yourself a planner. If you don't have one, you are wasting your day. And so it sounds like you can really, support those sentiments as well.
It's true. Because sometimes I'll put something on the calendar, and there's a lot of maybe a webinar I want to attend, and it's kind of like, ooh, I just double booked.
Right. Whoops. Can't do both.
Right.
Hopefully they do a recording.
That's true. Those are always good.
Do you have a particular planner that you find works best for you, Crystal, or any sort of shout out that we could give to people, something to check out, or is it just a Google Calendar that you're using?
Well, right now I'm using a Google Calendar. I've used Calendly, and I want to start using that again for when people need to book time with me. But I have not put all my calendar in there, so I need to update that so that way it's ready to go so I can use it. But Calendly is a really good platform for keeping others aware of my time.
Yes, definitely. I'm familiar with Calendly. That's definitely a great tool. All right, we have our next question from the audience, Crystal. They would like to know, how has your original mission evolved?
How has it evolved? Well, I've always had the thought of, I want to leave this world better than I found it. And I think the older I get, the more sustainable I get, and it makes me more aware of the things that are going on around me, and to try and set goals to make the changes that I need. I know, like was it last week, the person from Shore? And I thought, wow, it's challenging me to really look at what I'm doing and the products to say, okay, what can I change, feasibly change at this time? So I can really look at that sustainable So I think as the older I get, I'm really trying to be more sustainable.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was, I think you're referring to Malty from Shore Buddies last week, the campfire. Yeah, that
Yes.
was really interesting how he created the stuffed animals from completely recycled materials. And I think that you're right. Like, how can we leave the world better than how we found it? And, it's not just through businesses and products, but is through like even just making a sustainable choice in our everyday lives. So I think that's really definitely something for us all to keep in mind. And I'm curious too, like, is that why Keith started growing chili pepper plants? Were you guys actively trying to be more sustainable in your food choices? And so he decided to grow chili pepper plants. Take us back to like how that all started.
I think it was just something he did just because, not because of anything environmental. It was just something he grew and he found that he liked it. And then he started growing other ones. And then he was really trying to grow the world's hottest pepper. So I think it was just kind of a desire. And I don't know if it stemmed from, actually, so I was in the garden club. And at that time, I was the president of the garden club. And he made these 5-gallon buckets. And then you could put the water in. I think they were self-watering buckets. So Keith is pretty creative. He can do a lot of amazing things, hydroponics. And
Wow.
so he just started growing peppers. And
Wow.
I don't think there was any significant, any specific reason other than the fact that he enjoyed doing it.
Gotcha. That's so interesting. And then did he just think one day, like, I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do with, if I grew a pepper, I'd be like, okay, maybe I'll put this in a salad. I mean, and I know we also have Q in the audience who is an amazing, incredible chef. And I'm sure she has a million ideas for peppers. But like, did he want to make hot sauce like with them? Is that like the impetus for that?
I think he just happened to make a salsa and people enjoyed it. He's actually from Indiana, so he has learned canning from his mom. I think it was just probably, I know, I wish he was on the call too, that you could meet him. But I think it was just something that he just decided to do. And, hey, I've got peppers. Let me make some sauce with it. And just
does he feel like, is he all like in awe of what you've been able to do for his hot sauce? Like, oh my goodness, like, without you and like having, you both like work together, you wouldn't be where Uncle Keith is today. Like, how has that, been for your relationship and helping each other and pushing each other?
Well, I think he's given me reins to grow and to learn and to make mistakes. So I think it's exciting. And I think the further along we go, the more we see what we can bring to the table to the business. Right. We couldn't be where we are without, him having a recipe.
Right.
And
sure.
He has other recipes that I'm trying to pull him to do. So hopefully we will have more things on the market.
I love that. Ooh, I love that. A tease. I love an interview with a tease near the end, Crystal. That's exciting. I love that. Okay, we have another question from the collective here for you, Crystal, and they would like to know, what is the biggest change in you since starting Uncle Keith's?
Well, I think it's taught me to grow in areas where you have to get out of your comfort zone, and you can't just close up shop and call it a day. It's like, okay, this isn't a game anymore. This is a real thing. And now when you have employees or, we have just a couple of part-time people helping us right now. And it's kind of like, okay, I've got to continue. It's not you can just say, okay, I'm done with my hobby. It's not
right.
This is a business.
Right. Right. Like, oh no, people are depending on me for a paycheck and I can't just crawl in a corner and hide from
Right,
everybody. I have to keep going. But I think that
right.
is, one of the amazing things about entrepreneurship is that, right, it like teaches you in endless ways how to walk perpetually in the discomfort and to know you can get through that. And that and that you learn so much, moving forward. Is there anything like any situation or recent experience that you can think of where you did have to work through discomfort to get to a decision?
Well, I think everyone had the COVID, what are we going to do kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And we actually, in 2020, we had 5 locations. Um,
Oh.
but a couple of them one was closed because it was indoor mall. And
Mm-hmm.
then with COVID, so the location decided to close. And
Gotcha.
then the owner in 2021, he had brain cancer, so we decided to close a couple of locations. So we closed then. So I think, with COVID or just other
Mm-hmm.
related, the ups and downs of a business, because then when you think, oh
Mm-hmm.
wow, we're making traction, and then we're going, and then we have more locations, and then when you see them close and you're thinking, okay, well, should I open up another location, or should I
Mm-hmm.
just, try and maintain what we
Right.
currently have?
Right. That's a tough decision. I mean, do you and Keith have midnight oil, conversations where you're up all night talking about it? Like, how do you guys figure out what to do in those types of situations?
Right. And I think what it is we just look at it and think, okay, well, let's give this one a try. And
Mm-hmm.
then we go for it. And then really, I think where we are now is deciding, okay, should we be opening more locations? Back to that same question,
Mm-hmm.
do we open up more locations? And I think what it is, it's just chewing on it for a while and then
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know what, let's just do it. And then
Mm-hmm.
deciding to open a location.
Yeah, I love that. That's the spirit, Crystal. I love it. All right, so we are nearing the end of our campfire here, and we have one more question, and it comes from Roy for you, Crystal. He would like to know, do you have any single piece of advice for an aspiring entrepreneur?
Be organized. That will
Yes.
help you out a lot if for us, we started as a sole proprietorship, and then we moved to an LLC. So for us, it was difficult to,
Hmm.
because then we have to learn, okay, what things do we have to change, and just little details
Yeah.
along the way. So I think the more organized you are with your books, with, I think as a business, even if you open up a business, it is going to change. So
Hmm.
don't feel bad that when it's not going to be the same business you first start.
Right.
As you go forward, you'll learn things, and it'll become clearer as you go along the way. So
Right.
don't feel bad about that. But I think if a person is organized, the more organized you are, the smoother it will go.
Yes, definitely. Wonderful advice. I love that. Thank you. So as we wrap up the half hour here, Crystal, is there anything else you'd like to share, or can you tell us what's next for Uncle Keith's?
What's next for Uncle Keats is that we are hoping to get a barbecue sauce out. So we're
Ooh,
working on that in the
yum.
background. Um,
Hmm.
we'll see. But the goal is that we'll have one out before the end of the year, and we're excited
Awesome.
about that. And
Yes, and you better be dropping the links on how to shop that in the collective here because I know we will all be waiting. My stomach is rumbling just thinking about that. So can't wait. Can't wait. All right. Thank you so much. We've had Crystal Fairley here from Uncle Keith's Gourmet Foods. Thank you so much for joining us, Crystal. It was a pleasure talking with you today and learning about your journey.
Well, thank you for having me.
If you'd like to join the Excelerate Collective and attend future campfires, visit accelerateamerica.com/join and check out our future guest at accelerateamerica.com/campfire. Take care.